Hello, YouTubers. This is Joe here of Joe and Paul. Now, Paul's out on the porch, sunning himself, taking a nap here on the first wonderful 70 degree day we've had here. And he's got his shorts on and his shirt off, and he's just, getting himself exposed to those rays. Now, we had been out there earlier, and I was trying to use this machine out in the sun, and I have like a little cardboard hood I can put over so that the sun isn't directly on the screen and you can somewhat see it, but it doesn't really work. The only way to really see this thing is to actually have it in the shade. So after we watched a few of our usual favorites, I just brought this thing inside. Excuse me. So, but an interesting thing happened. I was happily going through the various recommended things, which are pretty much most of my the ones I subscribe to. And, on a couple of them, well, one anyway is one of my subscribers. And they were having a lot of things to say that I found interesting. And so I was commenting away. And it wasn't, it wasn't any sort of aggressive comments. I was just saying, oh, I had that experience, or this is how I handle that, or, it wasn't like, you're such an asshole. It wasn't like anything like that. And so all of a sudden this big red comes across, from YouTube. It says, you've commented a lot and we need you to type in this. And that's one of those wavy things, which I'm sure there's a technical name for those things, but I don't know that technical name. I know they're very hard for me, even in an unimpaired state. And I'm not impaired, but to copy and type in, one can only think what my ex-wife with her macular degeneration is going to do when she encounters one of these bad boys. Well, in any case, so I typed it in and they let me continue my post. I thought, well, I don't know. Do they, it's really, well, I don't like the either ors. It's either one or two, but we'll use that as a starting point. It's either that they don't want guys like our age saying things in some sort of extended way that has actual sentence structure and no slang and none of these little abbreviations and little, what do they call them, emoticons or whatever that stuff is. It's either they don't want that, in other words, they want to drive us off, or maybe they're trying to drive off the people that say, 50 or 60 times after all these guys' videos, oh, you're so cute. Oh, I like your hair. Where'd you get your shirt? I don't know. In any case, I'm sure the YouTube monitors will see this if I shoot this up there, and perhaps they would like to elaborate on this policy that they have. Perhaps it's just a trial policy. Some hot shot, on the rise, got the go ahead to do this. Who knows? But that's fine. Anyway, so I can't possibly think that I've said anything that was truly offensive. No. There was one fellow that I noticed that he was fixing dinner with rubber gloves on. Now, I don't know. Maybe the guy had a hand infection and he didn't want to put infection on the food that he was preparing for his associate. If that's the case, I apologize for my remark. But I said something along the lines of, you're wearing rubber gloves to prepare food that you're about to ingest into your body. You know, and in reality, you know, I mean, I don't buy into this whole, oh, cook it for, you know, if you cook the food to the government standard, it doesn't taste good, guys. It just tastes horrible. But okay, let's say they're going to do that. Let's say if you're going to wear rubber gloves to prepare food, let's assume that you're going to use a meat thermometer on your hamburger, which I find idiotic. But each to his own. And in which case, then you don't need the rubber gloves anyway. Now, on the other hand, maybe he's got some skin contact problems and so forth. I didn't necessarily allow for that in my remark because you only have 500 characters. Now, I know that to the general Twittery outfit out there that you have 140 characters, 500 characters seems like it's like a treatise. For somebody like me, it's just a way to get started. On the other hand, it's always good to be able to, be made to focus your thoughts. It really is. So essentially, to summarize the day, it's Sunday, April 7th here. It's about 2:24, Eastern Daylight Time. And I went to the 8 o'clock service. I awakened at 2:30 this morning. And I spent next 2.5 hours in prayer. Reading the Psalms in prayer, contemplating where I stand with God, where I stand with the rest of the world. Sometimes you don't get a good answer. And so then you realize that you've been given a lot of slack. And that when you're thinking like you're going to absent yourself from the Christian community, you're being an arrogant so-and-so. Well, I am an arrogant so-and-so. Pride's the last one to be eliminated in the list of the Desert Fathers when they talked about how you eliminate each sin. Pride's always the last one. I don't know if I'm proud, but the arrogance is vainglory. Vainglory hangs on to me. That's wrong. That's wrong. So anyway, the demons were basically telling me, you just don't go to church. Just don't go to church today. Just don't go to church. No. So I read the first, 17 Psalms. And of course, whenever you read the Psalms, you notice things that you never notice. Each time through, you always notice something different. And so these Psalms spoke to me, particularly Psalm 16, Coverdale edition, Coverdale translation or rendition. And then I read once again, the gospel for today, and Jesus appeared and breathed upon them. Receive the Holy Ghost. Well, you feel, various times you feel, a physical feeling of encountering the Holy Ghost happens. And in my case, it's like one of these little like tingling things. It's a generalized, tingling thing. But you know you've had an encounter with the divine. It's neat. It's humbling. It's amazing. You're at that you're at that boundary layer between the human and the divine. That boundary layer. I mean, I'm very much into boundary experiences. And actually, the rector was talking about today, and I'll tell you, I went up there all primed to be, bristly and attitudey, and I didn't need to be. I was wrong. Well, it turned out I was wrong. I don't know if I was wrong to be primed, but he was talking about, the sanctuary spaces being a boundary. Well, he didn't use the words boundary layer, but where you encounter the divine. Of course, they're not coming from a Eucharistic bread wine tradition. I have no problem with that now. In fact, I like to munch away very happily on the bread, and I always think about John 6 when I do that. But he did a good job. He even went into he even actually. Well, I've not discussed the interpretation of the Thomas Gospel with him, but I'd written an essay some years back about that, and he basically, he could have been quoting my essay. So, for what that's worth, he did one of these things where you ask questions during the sermon, or you put index cards in, and and then he answers questions. That actually worked out pretty well. He's very good in that kind of informal format. It keeps him focused. It keeps him away from yakking on about popular culture stuff, which I find just I just find that tedious as anything, and I know he thinks it attracts younger people and all that, and maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe it does. I'm not a younger person. I used to be one. I'm not now. I'm not so sure, though, that I would have been attracted to a church that did that then. But we'll see. Anyway, the point is you go to church. The point is you go to church. The point is you go glorify God. So it's not about me. It's not about, well, it's about us collectively. It's also about us individually in a way, but point is to be there, to be part of the Christian community. Even if you are part of the Looney Tune U.S. Episcopal Church. Oh, my word. Well, anyway. That's... well, I'll have to leave that stand there for a while on that one. But no, it was good, and I'm glad glad that God gave me the grace to beat those demons off this morning, early in the morning. It's not been the first such battle I've had, and it won't be the last, I imagine. But I'm very grateful that so far I'm still in the fight. People anymore now when people say, "How are you? How are you?" Yeah. I say, "Traveling hopefully." Traveling hopefully. Now that comes from a quotation from Robert Louis Stevenson that says, "To travel hopefully is better than to arrive." Now, when I was a senior in high school, our senior English teacher had all these quotations around the top of the blackboard. Do you remember blackboards, where you wrote on with chalk? And magic marker. Not the erasable magic marker. Magic marker that when it, got on something, it stayed. Well, anyway, so she had all these quotations, and for our senior term paper, excuse me, which is always a very big deal, you had to take one of these quotations and write about it. Then you could take any tack you wanted. She she wanted you to check in with her, be sure you're not going completely off the rails. And so I took that Robert Louis Stevenson quotation, and I took an existential bent. But in retrospect, having reread that paper a number of times over the years, it occurs to me that what would have made the paper complete was an appreciation of a Christian point of view. Now, I'd gone to church and I understood it, but I had not appreciated about the essence, the imperative of continually living in hope. And had I appreciated that, which I have a better inkling of now, I think I would have done a better job. Now, I would also probably have done a better job if I hadn't stayed up 2 nights running, and essentially become this kind of, caffeine-fueled, sleep-deprived, psychotic, typing away furiously on his, electric typewriter. Remember those electric typewriters? And so she gave me a B on it. Which is, just to be arrogant and tell you, that's one of the lowest grades I ever got in school. But her remark on the end sheet was, and this was like 25 pages long. She says, I really didn't understand any of this, but I'm assuming it's fairly good quality, so it's well written, so I'm going to give you a B. But in retrospect, that sort of existential philosophy that hasn't, the one actually grounded in Christian belief, I've come to have a greater understanding of that. So that was here it is. I mean, that's something I did when I was I was 17 years old. I'm 61, and now I'm starting to actually have a full realization of this. So Paul's back in. He was sunning himself, as I had mentioned earlier. I think I told him about that YouTube, wavy code number there, Soul.
Okay.
Oh well, okay. Well, so, I think that we haven't seen very many. Well, we've seen the geese. We see the geese all the time, but there's not been much livestock stuff to report today.
And 10 deer.
Oh, yeah, yes. Paul said there were 10 deer out this morning. He got up shortly after I left for church. I went to the 8 o'clock service, so I left around 7:20. He went out there. He said there were 10 deer down there, and then they scampered off very, very well. Not right away because they know us, and he was talking to them, and so they know us. But he went back out then after he went in to take a leak or something, and they were gone. So, they move around. They have an area. All right, I think, golly, it's just so good to have warm weather. It's 74. It's 74 right now here in on Alum Creek, on the creek bank. Which always is generally cooler. I'm seeing right here on my Living Earth HD that it's -16 in Barrow, Alaska. So as much as I would love to go to Alaska,
Not today.
not today. And I think that's a very wise statement from Paul. And I think on that note, we will stop and say bye-bye, YouTubers.